Hey guys, Saf here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and in today's video we're going to be looking at how you can maximize Artak's Burning Blood. Obviously this new champion, you're going to be able to get it tonight if you are staying up late for it, or you'll be able to probably get it tomorrow if you haven't missed a day. Artak is going to be a very good champion for pretty much any account, unless you're like super endgame and you have all the champions in sort of all the roles. Now, I will be streaming later tonight in about 4 hours, maybe 5 hours, give or take, where I will be playing to wait for Artak, and we will be grabbing him and instantly 60ing him to try him out in different areas. So if you want to see a play test before you invest in the champion, come hang out on our stream. We do stream all other things. We'll probably be trying it in Ice Golem. My community has sent me some things they want me to test. We'll be making sure and testing everything works how we think it's going to work. There's some quirky mechanics with the A2 where he does it before. We just want to make sure that works. And obviously we want to see how good he is in actually all the different areas. Come check out the stream tonight on this YouTube channel. There will be a scheduled live stream for you to be able to, follow and get notified when we go live. So, let's talk about Burning Blood. This is what makes Artak quite an interesting and unique champion, is the way that he works around his destroying of his HP. Obviously, we know he's a burn champion. He's going to be placing HP burn on all enemies on the A3, which is on a 3-turn cooldown for 2 turns, and then he's going to restore his destroyed max HP by 10% for every burn debuff that gets placed by that skill. Now, the heal for me is kind of irrelevant because unless the burn is blocked or resisted, which it doesn't happen an awful lot, you're going to get heals, but it's a very niche scenario where that's going to happen. And if you're not placing the burns, then you're not using them optimally, right? So I wouldn't really read too much into the heal. The main thing you've got to understand is you're going to place the burn, and if you replace that burn, then you're going to restore some max HP. On his A2, you get decreased attack and activation on an AoE level. So if you don't have a Sissia, you don't have a Theodore, he becomes one of the strongest champions in your account because he's just going to be able to push Spider very aggressively, push AoE content, Ice Golem hard. That's what he's going to be good at. And then the A1 has a chance to extend it, although it's only a 45% chance. So it's a 50-50. Doesn't always mean it's going to happen. Now, what happens when a target gets burnt is he loses 5% of his max HP, which stacks up to 50% of his max HP. If you've caught my video I released on the weekend a couple of days ago, you'll understand from that video that when he loses maximum HP, he's also going to lose damage. So when he does lose maximum HP, as a compensation for losing that HP, he's weaker, he could die, he loses damage, you're going to get some damage back. For every 1% of his destroyed max HP, you're going to gain 1% damage. And you're also going to get 1% crit damage, which is multiplicative. So that's an important thing to state. It's not plus 50% crit damage, it's whatever my crit damage that I own multiplied by 1.5. So the more crit damage you put on him, the more crit damage this passive is going to reward you. It works a bit like Ninja. And of course, you're going to get defense increased by 50% as well, which is a big amount of defense. So he's HP based, he's got 22,000 base HP. You shouldn't really have to worry about keeping him alive because as much as he's going to lose a lot of HP, he will actually still be at the HP level of most champions that you have in the game, because you're going to probably be able to scale him up to something like 70,000 HP. He's going to lose half that. He'll be on around 35,000 HP. That's pretty much what most non-HP champions tend to sit on, but he'll have literally a boatload of defense, like a ton of defense. We're talking with 1167, you could probably scale him to 3,000. That 3,000 will give him another 1,500 defense. So he's going to be extremely tanky from incoming damage. I don't really think that's a problem. The damage component, as we discussed in the last video, is kind of a null factor. You're basically using this passive to neutralize the loss of damage from his max HP. So you shouldn't really think that this is going to make him do a lot of damage. It's just basically making it so that he doesn't lose damage. Now, the more interesting thing from this passive is this increases the champion's speed and resistance by 2 for every 1% of the destroyed max HP. So in essence, when he has fully destroyed his max HP, he will have 100 more speed, like Razzlevarg, and 100 more resistance, which in some scenarios is very, very powerful. So in this video, we've warmed it up. It's 5 minutes long. I wanted to talk about how you can build your champions around this passive in multiple different ways. You have a lot of flexibility. So there's 3 main ways you can use this passive. Firstly, if you don't have any sort of AoE debuff extension or any AoE burners, then you can use him in the traditional sense. This is what I would call the traditional build, where he will place the burn, he'll activate the burn, and then he will restore his own maximum HP. This is going to make speed tuning him really, really hard. This traditional build, right? So you're going to build him with the concept that he will sometimes go a little bit faster, sometimes go a little bit slower, but to be honest, you can never really kind of manage this. Now, what you can go into is, okay, whenever I'm in Spider 10 hard, I can place this burn out straight away, and then I can activate the burn with the next turn. Chances are I'll be at fully 50% loss instantly because I'll be activating 10 burns on Spider hard or 11 on Spider normal, because obviously the Tainted Scavag Spider Queen is immune to burns herself, but her Spiderlings are not, so you get 10. So if you use this A2 in Spiders, you're going to be at like 100 bonus speed. Now, if you can cycle it in a way that you don't need to replace the burn, then he's always going to have 100 resistance. So it means it makes him quite a strong Spider tank. Why? Because you're reducing the attack of the Spiderlings, and you're also increasing your resistance so you don't take the poisons. It makes his build very efficient. He's also going to have like a huge amount of defense, so that means that his actual damage, the amount of damage he's going to take is quite low. So for Spider 10, that's kind of like the traditional build. Now, obviously, if you restore your maximum HP here, you know, when you replace this, it's going to fully heal him. It's going to fully replace him, but you're not going to heal. So you'll be at this situation where you'll restore all your max HP, but then you'll be at half health without the 50% defense bonus. So you've got to keep that in mind. That's what I would call the traditional build. There's no kind of clever ways of working it. You're just going to use his abilities the way you use his abilities. Option 2 is you never use this ability again. You place it, you start with that, and then you run in such a way that you utilize his additional speed to constantly get back around to the A1, meaning you can keep activating and extending it. Now, the only downside is you need to go quite considerably faster than the enemy. We're talking probably at least 2-1, so that you get a lot of these activations, and it runs the risk that this activation doesn't work, and then of course you don't have a burn. But that is one option. Now, you could use that strategy as well with another burn champion. So instead of using this ability, you bring 2 burners, and you would basically place the burn from the other burner all the time. So it's always going to have a burnout that he can always activate and extend, but he will be permanently running at 100 speed. That is kind of what I would call like the rapid build. The rapid build here is you're going to be utilizing this passive to quickly destroy his max HP so you can get 100 speed and really build him forward. That type of build could be speed tuned. You could use that in Clan Boss if you can guarantee that you're going to get as many activations as you want. Then as long as he gets ramped up to that speed, all you have to do is figure out, okay, when am I going to activate? When is the boss going to activate it? How quickly can I get up to that 100 speed? It's the same way we look at Razelvarg, how we can make Razelvarg work. We know when he's going to get the speed. As long as we don't use this A3 again, then we're okay. Now, the only downside to that strategy is you need to be activating the burn, or the burn has to have activated 10 times for you to be able to get up to that 100 speed, which is actually quite a lot of activations. If you think the Razelvarg only really needs 4 A3s because you can apply it on all allies, so you just need to get around to that A3 4 times. You could speed it up by obviously activating, but the likelihood is you're going to need some form of additional burn extension because it's unlikely that you're going to be able to get to the 10 activations required by not using this A3. And obviously if you use this A3, then you're probably going to restore more than you're going to destroy. So you can't really leverage this. So in that kind of setting, if you want to speed tune it for Clan Boss, if you bring a secondary burner and just use him as an extender and an A1 with decreased attack, you can leverage this speed buff and potentially put him into a 2-1 or force a different 2-1 team around that. It's kind of like a reverse Razelvarg kind of concept. He himself is not going to boost his own speed. He's going to rely on someone else to give the burn debuff because it doesn't have to be his burn. It has to be a burn. So that is what I would call build 2, where you're basically utilizing the speed passive here to be able to go super fast, but you're never using this A3. We don't have a normal Gaelic, we have ultimate Gaelic, not the supreme Gaelic. There's so many forms of Gaelic now, who knows? So how can we position this so that we can leverage that kind of 100 speed without requiring a burner? Well, option 1 is you just bring someone like a Sisia. You could bring that champion that kind of places the burn, extends it as well. So you get double extension, double activation. this type of setup is going to put him into a high speed scenario very quickly. I think this duo could be really strong in Ice Golem. If you don't have a Sisir, you could bring a Theodore as well, but use his A3 to try and extend it. Although keep in mind that Theodore won't necessarily place the burn himself. The other option is you can bring someone like a Dark Kale, who is always a great debuff extender because of this A2. He has the ability to increase the duration of all debuffs on the target by 1, although you're kind of doubling up on the decreased attack. The other great option, of course, is Vizier, the long forgotten, great debuff extender. Although he's not AoE debuff extension, so in a setting such as Ice Golem, you're not really going to get much value out of it because he's not extending all debuffs, which could be a problem. You can extend it on a single target. So in a clan boss setting, it looks pretty promising that you could potentially run Artak alongside a Vizier to be able to maximize the potential for keeping that burn up all the time. Once Vizier gets going, the debuffs never fall off, so you'll always have a burn that he can activate, and you're getting that backup A1. You can't really depend on the A1 for his debuff burn because the extension is only a 45% chance. There's a very high possibility it doesn't roll back to back, and then you've lost your burn, you can't replace it. So yeah, any form of debuff extension. Someone like a Shemnath would be excellent because you basically get a increase the duration of all enemy debuffs on the target by 1 turn on a 3-turn cooldown. So you could run like a Shemnath paired with a Artak that gets you decreased attack and decreased defense on clan boss. There's lots of different options you can run. The only challenge is going to be getting him up to that 100 speed. The quicker you can get him to that 100 speed, the better you can speed tune him. We got to figure out how to make it work in the clan boss calculator. Once Deadwoods has finished his Hydra tournament, we're probably going to get our heads together and see what we can do to be able to make Artak somewhat speed tunable. So of course, the third way that you can build him is a universal carry. Now, what do I mean by a universal carry? I would build him in a stun set, and I would put him either in like Fearsome Presence. Build his mastery setup in a little bit like I've built Mighty Uko here. You would put him in Fearsome Presence, and then what you should take is Harvest Despair. So because his A3 will only heal him if you can't place a burn, if it gets blocked or resisted, and it's not if it's already on the target, it's only if it gets blocked or resisted. So that's actually quite a very niche situation that's going to happen. You run Harvest Despair here, so you get your Leech. You run him in the stun set because he's triple AoE, right? Artak is triple AoE. He's a great wave carry. So you would build him in such a way where you will run him in stun set, triple AoE on all of these abilities. He attacks on all these abilities, and you just stun the target waves up. Now, you will lose max HP, but that means the more max HP you lose, the more speed you get. If you imagine you'll place a burn on all targets, and then you'll come in and you'll activate all those burns on all the targets, you will get 5 times 5, so you will get about 50 speed, which gets you back around to this A1 quicker, which gets you more stuns. It's like a hypercharged stun bot. That is the third way I would build him. That is the way that I will build him on my free-to-play. In the stun bot way, I will put him in literally in hospital spot, and he will sit there and he will permanently stun the waves constantly, every single ability. And at the same time, you're getting damage. You're getting burn damage. It's one of the easiest ways to kill waves. If you haven't got a Seer and you can't really like push high single target damage because you don't have the gear, which is going to be the case in my free to play, using a burn activator will just push you through waves much quicker because it's universal. It's 3% of the boss's of the target's HP. It doesn't matter whether they have 500 million HP or whether they have 10,000 HP. They're going to die at the same rate because it's a targeted percentage of the enemy's target. So it's a great way to build him if you're actually lacking control. If you're trying to push Doom Tower hard, if you're trying to push to higher dungeon stages, if you're in the mid game, just build him in a stun set. Put him in Fearsome Presence. You can go War Master if you want, but I prefer like the extra 5% chance. Put him in the Harvest Despair Mastery so you get free Leech on all your targets, so it helps keep your team alive when they attack those targets. It's actually really powerful, and just let him control the waves. I wouldn't be surprised if he can't be some sort of a solo hard carry with this build. It'll only be down to whether or not the bosses can one-shot him or not when he loses this max HP. But keep in mind, you get 100 resistance. So those poisons that the dragon would normally put on you, you don't need to build. You can build in with that 100 resistance so that it doesn't happen all that time. When you're looking at something like Agreth in Doom Tower, my free-to-play is currently stuck on Agreth because the poisons keep extending the duration. With the resistance there, I don't need to index any resistance stats to stop that buff extension. you get a lot of effective HP from this resistance and defense percentage that probably is going to fly under the radar, that it doesn't matter you lose half your HP because the stats are good enough. It's going to keep you alive. Also in situations like Hydra, I don't know whether the Hydra is going to stack on top of his passive. I got a feeling the way it's going to work, we'll test this tonight, is the Hydra can go to 25%, you can go to 50%. It's not 75%. It will just stop at 50% because he will burn himself to 50%, but the Hydra can't decay beyond 75%. So that's what I think is going to happen. In Hydra, I think even if you bring the right setup with Strengthen, Ally Protection, he can survive at 35k HP, not a problem. So there you go, guys. It's a bit of a early explanation introduction video. What I wanted to do is just kind of give you some thoughts and ideas of how you can really build Artak in multiple different ways. He's a very flexible champion. We've got build 1 where you just build him as a burner. You don't really take into account any sort of special speed tuning. Burn into activation, into extension, and just restore your HP every time you reuse that A3. Option 2 is you never use the A3, or you open with the A3 and you just don't use it again. So you get him to this 100 speed and then you speed tune around at a bonus 100 speed like we do with Razelvarg. And then option 3 is a stun bot way where you basically put him in stun set and you leverage all of his abilities with his burn extensions to basically get yourself free resistance and make yourself a super wave carry or a super boss killer in certain scenarios. I think he's going to be really, really good for Hydra. I think he's going to be really, really good for Ice Golem. I think he can go into Sand Devil in Ninja's spot. If you don't have a Chronum, you don't have a Drang, he can go into that spot. Although he won't be as efficient as Ninja and Chronum, he'll probably be around the Drang level of time. The only good news is his destruction of his self-max HP in something like Sand Devil is going to be quite low because he's going to activate once and the boss is going to remove the burn. So he's only ever really going to be at 10% before he comes back in and restores that 10%. So he shouldn't really lose much max HP in Sand Devil. There you go, guys. That is my top 3 builds ideas for Artak. I'm going to be building it tonight on stream. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this champion, and he's for sure going into my free-to-play teams once I get him on that account as well. Let me know what you plan on doing with Artak, what your ideas are with this champion, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next video.